Welcome to another episode of Heavy Muscle Radio. I'm Dave Palumbo, and I'm joined, as always, by the technician Chris Aceto on this March 20th, 2017 afternoon. And the Arnold Australia is in the history books. It's amazing. We hit 3 weekends in a row, the Arnold USA, Arnold New Zealand Pro, and then Arnold Australia. And we have a lot of champions that we weren't really expecting. Well, maybe we were expecting Cedric McMillan winning the Arnold USA, but Brandon Curry coming in and dominating that New Zealand Pro, and then coming in again this weekend. And amid some controversy, which we're going to talk about in a little bit, Dallas McCarver having to drop out of the show, Brandon wins again. Were you as impressed, Chris, with Brandon's look this week as he was last week?
I think he was better this week.
Yeah, I don't know. I was looking at the pictures. You know, we have a full gallery on RxMuscle.com on the contest photos, thanks to Darren Burns, who took some awesome pictures. And I don't know. I think that Brandon looked better last week. But then again, there wasn't a lot of pictures last week to look at. So, I don't know. What did you think you looked better about him this week?
I think he looked like tighter and rounder in the front lat spread.
You like roundness.
Yeah. Because, well, you know what I like? I like if it's like a conditioned type of physique, I want to see him in his best condition. And if your highlights are like roundness, I like to see, what sets off that physique different from everyone else, which is his roundness.
Yeah.
So
I didn't think he was as sharp. That's just me. I thought he was, like you said, I think he's fuller this week, and maybe that's a better look for him.
Yeah.
Obviously, the lineup was not as tough this week because Dallas McCarver had to drop out, and we'll talk about that. Like I said in a minute, there's always controversy, Chris, as we know. It can never be without controversy. There's always some ramblings, and you know what? Lately, it seems like Shawn Ray is in the middle of all the controversy. You ever noticed that? People think it's me, but the truth is that it's Shawn Ray causing most of the controversy. I just responded, at the end.
I mean, you know what? It's right. Wherever you find controversy, Shawn Ray will be there. Brazil, Cedric getting kicked out. But interviews with Ascanani.
But here's a guy, Chris, who's supposed to be for the athlete, and he's really not for the athlete because he's always looking to crucify the athlete, and he thinks that's good press. But if you're for the athlete, you have to be able to relate to the fact that, hey, you know what? Sometimes you miss a competitor's meeting because you're held up somewhere. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't be allowed to compete in the shows. I remember back in the 90s, Carl Campagna used to run the NPC before Steve Weinberger did in New York. And it was the most nerve-wracking thing going to these shows because when you get there, he'd sit you down and this guy, if you showed up 5 minutes late, he wouldn't let you compete. That he had rules, and if you didn't adhere to the rules, you're out of there. And it was so nerve-wracking backstage because they were shouting at us, and it was not a fun environment. It was very well structured, but it was not a fun environment.
Was he like a military guy or something?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, he's and I became friends with him years later, and his son, got trained at their gym a little bit, but he just was an old Italian. This is the way you do things, no deviations, and that's why it worked for a while. But I think when Steve came in, he changed everything, and you have to make accommodations for things. You can't be that rigid. Especially when a person diets for 16 weeks for a show and shows up and pays all this money, and he's not going to let him compete because he's 5 minutes late. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
So the fact that Shawn Ray would try to use something like that against someone that maybe he has some jealousy for or whatever, probably the jealousy was towards you. And that's probably what it was about.
Well,
and then get Cedric.
He's got all kinds of issues.
Yeah. Well, he gets Cedric. It's funny. He gets Cedric.
This show is not long enough to be able to address all the internal issues that Shawn struggles with. Yeah,
but he gets Cedric disqualified from the Arnold Brazil, okay? And what does he do? He claims that his good friend Lee Thompson is who he gets to disqualify Cedric, is now no longer his friend. You notice that? They're no longer... You remember they were best friends. They were doing shows together and all kinds of stuff, and now they don't. Now he's disowned them because it's not in Shawn Ray's best interest to be friends with Lee Thompson anymore.
Yeah, well, that's fully predictable and fully understandable and fully Shawnable.
Yeah.
Right. You know.
Let's
that's what I said. We gotta find out what his take is on Wheeler's comeback, because he was so anti Levrone comeback.
Oh, he's against it. I guarantee it. I'm pretty sure he is. Didn't he already come out against it?
Did he already come out? I don't know. I think he'd fire off some type of missive of his great concern for his great friend with the fake calf implants that he didn't really have, Flex Wheeler.
Yeah. Well, Flex got invited to the Classic Physique Olympia. That was one of the announcements I wanted to make. Since you brought it up, I'll talk about it a little bit. And is that a good thing? I don't know. Chris, what do you think? What's your opinion on this whole Flex Wheeler comeback?
Like I said, I don't like it because, I don't like it only because I personally think that Flex Wheeler's physique was one of the greatest in history, if not right up there with one of the top. When he won the first Arnold, and he was phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. And that word's thrown around all the time. And, Roden is compared to Wheeler and blah, blah, blah. And Dexter's got shape. Really, personally, I don't think they're in the same category in terms of flow, shape, insertions, fullness, clean lines that Flex had at that show. And that's the way I remember Flex. And, I remember Flex in quarter turns and Olympias, where he's gigantic with a tiny waist, where he looks like a walking, talking Hanna-Barbera cartoon character.
Right.
So, that's what I want and prefer to remember. He might look, tremendous, at the Olympia this year for someone who's 47 or 50, whatever he is. But, like I said, it's almost like seeing, some type of bikini model, a pinup model, a fashion model, at 50. There's no way they're going to have the same skin texture. Right. That they had, in their heyday.
Especially after what Flex went through. I mean, he went through a kidney transplant. I mean, it's pretty bad, that he's had surgeries on his abdominal wall. And, even though they're probably not that apparent or he wouldn't be doing this. The only thing I could say about the comeback is that he's not doing regular bodybuilding. He's doing classic bodybuilding. So he's not going to be standing next to, Phil Heath on stage. So in that sense, I can see him rationalizing that because, he's like, if I don't do well, who cares? It's not bodybuilding. I'm not going up against someone. He's not pulling a Levrone, in other words. However, he does have a health issue. He has a kidney transplant, and you just don't get a kidney transplant. You have to, be maintained on immune suppressive drugs for the rest of your life, which obviously makes your immune system very weak and doesn't really handle stress well. So, and we know how stressful a contest prep is. And if I know Flex, he's not coming into this and going to do it half-assed. He's going to want to look good. And so, to me, there's a danger component. I like the guy, and I'm friends with him. I don't want to see anything happen to him. He should, like you said, go down as a legend. And I'd much prefer to hear his commentary on the sport, get his insights, his experience. Let him be a teacher now, as opposed to just trying to make one more run at it. But I understand the fact that he really didn't end his career on his own terms, and so maybe he needs to do this.
Which is difficult.
Maybe he needs to do this. It might be.
Well, the flip side is, if you look at his career, two things, Dave, is even when he was at the Marcus Welby site, nobody used him to gain his insight on. You know what I mean? On his evaluation of an Olympia contest. No. They did, but he has so much to say, and people want to hear because he is who he is.
Right. When I was over there, it used to be Shawn, me, and Flex would do all the wrap-ups together, and we were always at all the shows, and that was the heyday, obviously, when Bleckman was actually making money and paying people. So once that business model disappeared, he was basically Flex was just on the shelf for a number of years with Bleckman. Bleckman was paying him just not to talk to anyone else, essentially. And then at some point, obviously, it didn't really pay anymore. So he let Flex go. Now Flex obviously is working with Generation Iron, so hopefully he has a voice there now, and we'll be able to hear more about him. But let's see. Like I said, I'm not in favor of but it doesn't matter because it's not about me; it's about him. It doesn't matter if Dave Palumbo approves or not of the comeback. I'm still excited to see what he can look like, but I just hope he's not going to do any harm to himself. That's all.
I think he's got a platform, right, to motivate people. And he's got a platform to, show people that I guess those who have had kidney transplants, can live or in his case, more than a normal life. I understand that aspect. So, and then throw in the oddness of his career. Nobody had a career like that where he had the car crash. He had
the ninja attack.
He had that, and he pulled out of shows, and then he had the health issues at the end. It's just such a what could have been type of career. Because technically,
right, but he had a great career anyway. He wasn't at the beginning of his career when he got the kidney issues. He was at the end of his career.
Yeah.
Could he have been better? You think he would have gone another 5-6 years? If he didn't have the kidney problems.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how far
I don't know.
he go.
Was he at his best then? Was he still getting better? That's the question.
He's getting bigger, but not better. I go back to that the first Arnold. And
in other words, would he have beaten Coleman ahead of Cutler? Or is Flex getting worse?
If he could have replicated his first Arnold win, he probably could have beaten Coleman.
But that never happens. He's not going to go backwards. He was bigger.
Yeah.
I guess
sometimes when you get bigger like that, it's harder to get that wacky condition that comes at a lighter body weight for some reason.
Well, you know what the some reason is? The some reason is that people don't want to suffer as much, and they don't want to lose as much weight because they think, well, now I'm 30 pounds or 25 pounds heavier. They don't want to think about, well, maybe I actually need to go down 10 more pounds.
Well, I guess
to be in the best shape of my life, and they don't want to say, well, I'm actually 10 pounds lighter than I am, And I think that's why people don't get in the best shape of their life anymore. Sometimes when they get bigger.
Put that on the back burner. We can talk. We don't need to discuss it now, but Guy Sistonino being the tightest guy in the show at the Arnold Australia,
yeah, exactly, in the open,
and allowing him to get some comparisons at least,
Yeah, that was pretty impressive. And let's talk about the Arnold Australia because it's looming there. Like I said, I'm looking at the pictures there on our website at the RxMuscle.com website. The good thing about it is that I'm going to get Tony Doherty Monday on our show to do an analysis of what happened at the show since he was there. Obviously, it's his show, and I like to hear Tony's insights into what went on there. But Brandon Curry, 2 in a row. 2 big shows, 2 big wins. He's obviously going to be going to the Olympia later this year. I'm sure he's going to probably shut it down after this. Brought a good look. This is obviously the best Curry we've ever seen. I thought he was a little tighter last week. You like the fullness around us, but he was certainly the definitive winner in both shows. Where does that put Brandon Curry's stock, and how good is this Brandon Curry physique we're seeing in comparison to the rest of the top 6 at the Olympia? How does this guy do?
I think he does tremendously well, and I base that on the year Brandon got 10th at the Olympia. Top 10 is something.
Yeah.
And the year he got 10th, I thought he was shockingly impressive, and he was smaller then, and it was a deeper. I think it was a few years ago. I think the lineup personally was a deeper lineup than
right.
What's here. So I think with the added mass, that he's in some type of running just based on the pure roundness and flow of his physique.
Yeah, I'll tell you one thing I don't like about Brandon Curry, and you guys he can crucify me only once. I don't like the haircut. I like his old cool haircut. Don't you? I don't like the buzzed hair. He always had a little bit of shit. It was kind of squared off. I don't know, something with the beard and the thing. He looks.
Yeah. He had that mojo going on. He had that little beard thing, which.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He changed it up. I don't know if that was the Camel Crew, telling him to do that, but But his head, he doesn't usually have a shaved head, though. He usually has, right, a lot more hair, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And it's not that he's definitely not losing his hair. I could tell you that, because he's got a thick head of hair there. I see. Yeah, I'm looking at the old pictures. Something that just I think he just shaved his head more. Maybe I like him with more hair. But that's me. Once again, I give my opinions, which really don't mean a freaking hill of beans, because
They do.
They do. They really don't. It really doesn't matter what his hair looks like. I'm telling Brandon. I like Brandon. He had a look about him. I don't know, and I just like that look.
Yeah, he had that cool, like a Grammy Award winner.
Yes,
look.
He looked like a Motown singer or something like that, or like a jazz trumpetist or something like that. I don't know. And which is amazing, which is cool because he comes from Nashville, so it kind of fits. Let's talk about this Dallas McCarver disaster that went on there, or debacle, or whatever you want to call it. We have the pictures up from prejudging, so we could see what he looked like. From looking at the pictures, obviously, you can't tell from pictures. Was he better, worse than New Zealand and Arnold USA?
Let's see. Let me give. I thought he was pretty damn tight here.
Yeah. I've never seen his face so sucked in recent memory, so I'm assuming that his contest prep guy Chad, must have really sucked him pretty dry, which could account for why he almost passed out on stage, and he had to be given an IV, a bag backstage to rehydrate him. Was he too dehydrated?
Obviously, if he had problems, obviously he was too dehydrated, right? But
on the back double,
his physique doesn't look dehydrated. You know what I mean?
Right, but he's so big. He's so big. Look at his back double bicep shot. It looks like the skin's maybe a little loose, like he could be a little flat.
Yeah, he's flat in the like from the a little flat in the glutes down, probably.
Yeah. I think that and this is a judgment call, and you can't blame anyone. He's so big and massive that sometimes you think if you suck these guys drier, that they'll just look ridiculous, because he's never going to look small because he's got so much muscle on his body. But sometimes you can suck a person too dry, and the skin gets loose. They get flat, as we like to say.
Yeah,
because he's definitely in great shape. You can tell his conditioning is great.
The perfect example. I have all kinds of examples of that, but go ahead.
Go ahead, give me an example.
No, the example is Ramy at prejudging versus finals, right?
Yeah. Yep.
He's peeled out of his mind. If you go back and look at pictures, he's like peeled out of his mind in prejudging and not. But it much better look, more hydrated at the night show a day later.
Yep. So the question remains, because the excuses, the excuse train comes flying out whenever something happens like this, where Steve Weinberger, the head judge, has to say, "You're done. That's it," because you're not coming back out. That's a great call by Steve, because we don't need to see anyone dropping dead on stage. It's not freaking worth it. It's not worth the bad publicity. It's not worth losing someone over it. So it was a smart move. They pulled him out. That's it. You're done. You'll regroup. So that was a good move on his part. But the question is, what happened? Because the excuse train came out, and everyone was saying, everyone. Chad Nichols wrote on his Facebook. Aaron Singerman, who obviously endorses him, obviously is reiterating the rhetoric. The rhetoric was Dallas has had a respiratory tract infection for the last 3 weeks, which is the excuse why he didn't win all 3 shows, essentially. And he was battling this, and Chad said, we should have pulled out, but they didn't do it, obviously. They didn't pull out. And they pushed him, and that's why he was having problems, because he couldn't breathe. Now, usually when people can't breathe, they don't give you an IV bag backstage. That's just the way I look at it. Mm-hmm. When you can't breathe, you get off stage and you take a little break, or they put oxygen on you. They don't put an IV bag in you. They put an IV bag in you when you're cramping severely. And so I'm assuming that on stage he was cramping, because people don't leave or curl over on stage when they can't catch their breath,
Yeah. Was it, so which one was it? Was it...
I don't know. So, Shawn Ray, and like I said, I would never even make a judgment call. I wouldn't even say it was this or that, because I don't know. I wasn't there, But Shawn Ray seems to have a very strong opinion of what happened. And I'm reading this right here. Hold on. I guess Dallas was upset with Shawn Ray because Shawn was very critical.
Wait. Someone upset with Shawn Ray. Oh.
Dallas was very upset with Shawn because Shawn criticized him very harshly on that, and we talked about this on Iron Debate, on that posing video that was put up where Dallas was posing for NPC President Jim Manning.
I call it Gutgate.
Yeah, his stomach was sticking out. He didn't look good. He was which sometimes that happens, you know what I mean? Because you could be a week out from a show. He was holding water, whatever. His stomach was upset.
Yeah, but you know what? Some people look like a disaster 2 and 3 weeks out. I mean, they just do. I know people who have placed top 5 in the Olympia who look like a disaster 7 days out. Not because they're holding 30 pounds of water, because they're holding like 5 to 6, and it looks like 12 of fat.
Yeah. Yep. So Shawn, this is what Shawn...
Or to play devil's advocate, he could have looked like a disaster. I'm just making the point that you can look like a disaster 2 and 3 weeks out.
Shawn was critical of him. We were critical of the video, but we weren't as caustically critical of Dallas McCarver. You know, Shawn was like, you should be embarrassed to pose in front of the NPC president looking like a shit. And, he was pretty rude. But that's fine. Shawn's entitled to his opinion. So I guess, according to Shawn, and I'm reading Shawn's post from MD, he said he spoke to Dallas before the prejudging. And he actually put the conversation there.
I'm sure Dallas thought it was like...
Shawn asked Dallas,
I'm sure whatever conversation Dallas had with Shawn, he had a conversation with Shawn, not expecting it to be posted up.
Exactly.
But
that's all right. Shawn's entitled to post that. That I don't have a problem with that, because it was basically, if anything, it was just Dallas being pissed at him. So basically, Shawn said, "Hey, you mad at me?" And Dallas said, "Damn right I am." Shawn said, "What did I say that you have issue with?" And Dallas says, "You could have called me for the backstory." The backstory is talking about regarding that video where he was posing for Jim Manning. So Shawn Ray said, "What backstory? I was making an observation of what was put out there on video." And Dallas says, "Then you should have called me."
True. Well,
and Shawn said, "Why? Why do I have to call you?"
You don't need to have to call him. He's right.
So Dallas says, "Because you were talking shit." So Shawn said, "So my critique of you posing in front of Jim Manning was talking shit? So aren't we cool?" And Dallas said, "No, we're not." So Shawn said, "I've been doing this business for 30 years and I don't know what I'm talking about?" ? Dallas said, "No, because if you knew what you were talking about, you would have known I was throwing up for 3 days straight." Now, all of a sudden, we never heard about any throwing up from Dallas, prior to the posing for Jim Manning, So evidently, Dallas has been having some. Yeah, we hear this all the time. Whenever people don't look good, it's either food poisoning or virus.
The Lasix fish.
Lasix fish, as you say. So Shawn says, "Well, you shouldn't have been in front of the camera, or you could have said something." Okay, he said, "Good luck." So now, then Shawn puts, in his post.
To defend Shawn there, he's got.
Yeah, he's allowed to say what he wants. Yeah, right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's not. I mean, anyone's allowed to say what they want, but more important, he's making an observation of, what's put out there publicly. Right. I mean, if you put out pictures of deliberately of the way you look, and you realize you don't look good, expect to get criticized.
Right. I guess he figured that Shawn should have called him, especially since.
Shit.
Listen. Especially. I'm going to interrupt you.
Phil Heath's got like 9 Olympia wins or whatever, 7, and we still criticize him.
Right.
I mean, it doesn't mean he's not the best bodybuilder on the planet. We're just criticizing him comparing to like where he looked at this year or that year or this year. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, Shawn could have called Dallas, especially given the fact that, and Aaron Singerman pointed this out to me, that Dallas is the last MD athlete on payroll there. So Dallas works for MD, Shawn works for MD. You think Shawn could have called him and got the scoop before he just basically blasted him? So Shawn continues on his post.
But in defense of Shawn again, what's the point? I understand. I mean, what is Aaron's point? That really that Shawn was wrong in making the observation of what the naked eye can see?
No, not that. Now I'm going to get to the point that he's upset about. So then Shawn writes, "This begs the question. Where's Chad? He calls him the Chad, and Singerman on all this? Never mentioned Dallas posing after puking for 3 days, number one. Now he's here in Australia, was in 3rd place at the time. He was about to pass out and got carried off stage. What will we hear now? The lights were too bright. I distracted his focus.
Well, let me translate that. I just defended Shawn. I want to shut the conversation down because I'm defending him too much, for God's sakes. But the fact is that the Chad worked with the Ronnie, the Nasser, and the Flex, and they beat the Shawn every time. Right. So there's a little bit of bitterness 25 years later, or however the hell long it is, that Shawn still hates the Chad for that reason.
Well, it seems like this because look, his advice, he goes, my advice, drop the guru, go back to the gym and slow the fuck down and stop listening to everyone.
Dude, how come every fucking person has a guru? I mean, the point is, he says, drop the guru. Well, you know what? It's kind of working for Phil. It's kind of worked for Jay in the past. Yeah. It's kind of worked for Ronnie. I mean, those are all the Olympia people, period. Yeah. They have it. You know what I mean? How can you... So Shawn can make the concrete and legitimate observation about Gutgate, that Dallas's, stomach is hanging out and he doesn't look good in the video, 3 weeks out. Okay. We'll make the observation, too, that Chad and Hanny, gurus, right? Just because they don't, compete on the IFBB stage, they are gurus who have wrapped up that Olympia, or George Farah, who is a guru. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. People are winning the biggest shows with a guru. Right.
Well, Shawn's just saying that, like you said, because he never used it.
And the difference between the Chad and the Hanny and the George is Chad can dish it out back to Shawn, and Hanny will just keep his mouth shut and just ignore it, and
right.
George might bother, but he'll
Hanny will go eat a cheeseburger and internalize it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, He'll and George, it manifests somewhere. He don't talk bad about people, so but I know it would bother him, but he's a guru.
Yeah.
So that pile-on feud is, if it came out in the news, IRS audits, 75 people in, Illinois, Chad Nichols, one of them, owes, $90. Shawn would be the one
who reports them,
making the report and calling the IRS and want him to dig deeper on the $90 that Chad owes. Remember, Shawn, I think, had the dealing with the Chad. I think he called Crime Busters on the Chad. There's a story out there. Somebody listening to the show can send it in.
Crime Busters.
And there was... Yeah, he did. There was something he was trying to get, because Chad was very successful with the guys he was helping who was beating Shawn. And I think Shawn had called Crime Busters, the TV show, to get him out there and, I don't know, bust Chad on something.
I never heard that one, but it's possible. So,
But this is a vendetta that goes back and 25 years.
Yeah. Well, let me finish. Let me finish this here, and then I want you to get your opinion on this. So basically, Shawn's advice was drop the guru, go back to the gym and train, slow the fuck down, and stop listening to everyone who tells you how great you will be one day. Gurus feed you full of shit. Shut it down and go home. Pop up 2 years from now, or you're going to be the next Trey Brewer. And he says, Google him if you don't know who I'm talking about. Obviously, he's referring about the Trey Brewer who.
First of all, Trey Brewer couldn't win the fucking Nationals,
right.
and excuse me. But this kid's already won a couple pro shows off the bat and placed in the top 10 of the Olympia, top 7, and just came off a tremendous Arnold Classic showing against, not, sorry, don't take it insulting, but not the average bodybuilder. You know what I mean? Cedric McMillan. So to compare Trey Brewer, who couldn't win the Nationals and probably was a hyped-up fiction product of MD, to somebody who's proven himself over and over is ridiculous. The fact of the one portion part of that where he's right is any 25-year-old kid, with the exception of Jay Cutler, any 25-year-old kid is probably not going to have the mental maturity. That's just the way it is, the experience, to be able to perfectly handle themselves in the situation they find themselves in, and that is, okay, I've won 2 pro shows, I've I've done good in the Olympia. I want to get this Mr. Olympia title. Yeah, you do listen to a lot of people, including Aaron. Aaron's got his ear. Chad's got his ear. You go see Mannion. You want to hear what Mannion has to say. You go see, you'll go ask the head judge Steve Weinberger his opinion. I mean, it's easy and logical to listen to everybody because you don't know, how to organize your thoughts properly, and just focus on yourself being 25 years old to see what is best for me. So that's also a phony argument because it's normal to get advice from people and to listen to people and to try to weigh what is right and the right decision and the wrong decision. So that poo-poos that idea, that whole soliloquy of phoniness aimed at Dallas.
Well, here's the real... Now, in the next post that Shawn posted, this is the real reveal where you can see how he feels about Chad personally. It's ironic because he's responding to a post I see by Boston Lloyd, who Boston wrote, Shawn Ray has talked more shit about me than any pro on the circuit, but I still love him because it's the truth, because he tells the truth. Chad is only good with black dudes. He made Dennis Wolf look like shit.
Fucking Boston Lloyd is more irrelevant than
I know. No, but I'm saying
talk about a Trey Brewer,
right? So Shawn, who bashes the hell out of Boston Lloyd.
Let me guess. He'll put him up there as a star witness.
Well, he quoted him. No, he quoted him in his post.
I'd like to call the witness Boston Lloyd. What are his credentials? Takes a lot of shit.
No, but Shawn doesn't even like Boston Lloyd, but he quotes him because Boston's defending him. And then Shawn Ray writes, Nasser El-Somebody, dead. Youngblood, dead. Prince, kidney transplant. Wheeler, kidney transplant. Don Long, no kidneys. Wolf got out. Coleman near death in a bathtub before Olympia while working with Chad. Remember that? Those are the ones we know about. Now Dallas at 25. Pray he sees the light of darkness. Pray he sees the light before the darkness sets in. Things that make you go, If that doesn't really, tell you that he really thinks very lowly of Chad Nichols, I don't know what does.
Yeah, well, if I don't know if Dallas was having problems, if Shawn Ray was there to help him, he'd probably want to see him struggle further just so he could post that up and say, see, I told you so.
Yeah.
Let me tell you about Nasser El-Somebody. He gave me an anabolic cycle that he used way before he met Chad.
Right.
And Nasser's personality. He's a jokester.
Mm-hmm.
If he was joking, then I guess it was funny. If it was real, then I don't expect him to really live too long.
Really? That bad, huh?
And
like what?
that was.
What was he taking?
It would make Boston Lloyd's head spin.
Speaking of Boston Lloyd, you might say that Boston might try the cycle. What? Seriously, like how?
I mean, it was like 2,000 test, 1,000 trend, keep going. Okay. There you go. Right. That was post New York Pro. New York Pro was United Champions, and I have these internal shutdowns when I hear when like if someone says your building's on fire, and people, there are ambulances there. I get into this ridiculously calm state, and sometimes people think, "Wow, you can really think on your feet," but it's really sometimes it borders on a shutdown state because right. you go into denial, like, "Wow, this is like serious stuff." And so I remember that cycle. I was like, "Wow," I couldn't wrap my head around it.
Yeah.
So I'm not defending any. I'm just pointing out that people do things that are zany, and people have lifestyle choices outside of those crazy things that they take that often people don't know about. This day and age, it's pills, right?
Yeah.
It's anyways. I mean that's a list of like dead people that are in fact, associated with Chad. But if I still go back to the vendetta, it's just a vendetta that Chad's guys have smoked Shawn on stage multiple times, which Shawn hates, and it's manifested in this anti-guru tirade for years.
Yeah.
And if that list was not that, right? If that list was not that, then he would come up with something else.
Well, yeah, I think that there is obviously some animosity there, and it's interesting that Flex Wheeler has chosen even after.
Get Chad on Iron Debate, dude. Chad's got balls,
Well, Flex Wheeler has rehired Chad, so you would think that obviously if
then
Flex
he's got to be fucking crazy.
Right. If Flex felt that that Chad was responsible for him losing his kidneys, he wouldn't hire him again.
Then you know what? Then we need to do a mental. We don't need to check. Flex's kidneys. We need to check his brain function and capacity. In other words, I'm being facetious. Yeah. Flex. There is the proof in the pudding. I mean, if he thinks that he was, that reckless with him, then I don't think you would see, which we did, backstage at the Arnold Classic, Flex having long conversation about competing with Chad.
Right. Well, I know that he hired Chad because Chad was telling us, and then Flex told us. So that's confirmed.
That's the point.
Yeah. Let's talk about obviously.
Call Crime Busters, dude. Call the Crime Busters.
Chris, you're really on fire tonight. Holy mackerel!
There's a story about that somewhere. Someone told me once, and I just sometimes you can't listen to everything because it's just so much foolishness. But it's it's the X-ray guy. It's the same guy who had the X-rays of he had Flex's calves X-rayed or investigated by.
But Shawn Ray admitted. Shawn Ray did admit.
Shawn Ray had Wayne DeMilia, the promoter of the Mr. Olympia, investigate Flex Wheeler's calves because he thought that Flex Wheeler's calves were the reason why Flex Wheeler was beating Shawn in shows.
Well, I think he said he had admitted to doing that purposely to just mess with Flex's head.
Well, you know what? Yeah, mess with Flex's head. God forbid if they came up if they had come up that they were fake, then he would have said, "See,
right.
I knew they were fake. We can't have him in the contest."
Right. Well, that would definitely eliminate one of his competitors, the beats.
So that poo-poos his phony. I just wanted to get into his head. It's his head Flex is into. I mean, let's talk about whose head is being affected.
Yeah. Let's talk about the show a little bit. Let's move back to that. Obviously, Dallas McCarver out of that lineup. Now, according to Shawn Ray, Dallas wasn't even in second place at this point. He was in third place.
Yeah, I think I'm in ninth. This guy had a
Max Charles finishes in the second position. Obviously, the best placing, I would say, of his career, even though he's won a pro show or two. I think this was the best placing of his career, obviously, in a big Arnold show like this to place second. Good, better, best. Which Max Charles did we see here?
All right, he was good. He was better at the Arnold. Well, here's the analysis. He was better at the Arnold this year for sure. He was, definitely tighter, and he was downsized at the Arnold this year compared to the Arnold last year.
Right. Well, how do he look here in Australia to you? To me, he looks
good.
His conditioning is really good, but he does look a little smaller. You're right.
Yeah, he looks a little small, and the problem is doing for someone who has difficulty bringing in their glutes, hams, and back, which they were there for the Arnold for sure. 2 shows because they're so hard to get in, they don't stay in.
Right.
You know what I mean? They're like one-hit wonders. I mean, they're deep bang for the Arnold, and then the travel, being a big guy, being the fact that it's hard to bring in a body part that just doesn't want to come in, to bring it in at this show, like it was at the Arnold, it's just not going to happen. It just doesn't happen. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's not like you're not talking about somebody who's, quads are going to be their off-season with striations even when they're fat. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It's a challenging body part to bring in, and those areas have to be blasting full and completely dry to look impressive.
Yeah.
But he looked good overall.
Yeah. I'm shocked actually that Juan Morel was not in this lineup, and I forgot to ask him and text him why he wasn't doing it, but maybe he just felt like he needed to shut it down, But he didn't go from New Zealand. He went back home and he just didn't do the show. He was originally in the lineup, but I don't know what happened. Maybe he wasn't feeling well. Michael Lockett sneaks into that third position. Here's a guy. You mentioned Guy Cisternino before, but I have to foo-foo that. I think Michael Lockett is always the hardest guy in the lineup. I mean, he's just always so dry, ridiculous, and he probably walks around 365 days a year looking like this. He gets better and better at every show. I mean, in the right lineup, he's dangerous because this wasn't a deep lineup, and his conditioning, and he's got good size. I mean, does he need a little bit more leg mass? Yeah, probably, but I mean, he doesn't really have many weaknesses when you break it down.
No, he doesn't have. He's a guy who's dangerous in any show. We just, it's the same old. His back. I don't know if it's his back could be a little bit better, and his legs could be a little bit better, and that's exposed when going up against like a Brandon Curry.
Sure.
Or even in this case like Max Charles.
Yeah, Lockett is just that enigma. We try to get him on TV shows. You can't even get in contact with the guy. He's like, I don't know where. It's like you have to send him an SOS or something like that.
You have to send him on those like Mike Tyson pigeon note.
He's just such. He's the biggest enigma in the sport. I really believe that. I mean, I've known him for many, many years. I interviewed him when he won the Team Universe, when he won the Junior Nationals. Then he disappeared for a number of years. I mean, he's an interesting character. He really is. But I just don't get him, But the guy always is in shape. You can't really take it away from him. I mean, let's talk about a more interesting bodybuilder, Jeff Beckham, because Beckham, there's been hype around this guy ever since he won the Team Universe. He has the size. He's a tall guy. He's got a small waist. He's a terrific poser on stage. We were very, very complimentary at the end of the season when he was in that San Marino Pro and the even better at the Dubai Pro. He looked, he finally brought conditioning to the stage. How'd you like this look he brought to Australia here? And what do you think what do you think Jeff Beckham's got to do to start winning shows?
Just keep doing them.
Yeah.
Nothing. His condition is great. His structure is great. Everything's coming in terms of size. Nothing. Just he's going to win a show. Absolutely. He just needs to show up at a show where Brandon Curry is not there. He can push at this show. I mean, I looked at pictures. Maybe he's a little, he needs, like, of course, more pecs. But,
yeah.
I mean, he can push Max at a show like this. He can push Lockett at a show like this. I mean, he's dangerous.
Yeah, and the presentation thing is really helps his physique too, because he just knows how to show off his gifts and hide his weaknesses.
Yeah, he's impressive for sure.
Yeah, he's a tall guy too. It's funny because we never had tall bodybuilders before, and all of a sudden we have between the Wolves and Beckham and it's Dallas McCarver 6'2", and who else? There was another guy. I'm blocking out of my head. It was also tall. Juan Morel's tall. I mean,
Cedric is tall.
Cedric's tall. I forgot Cedric. That's what I was thinking. I mean, we never in the history of bodybuilding have had such a lineup of guys over 6 foot tall. I mean, usually it's the 5'10" guys, 5'11" guys are the winning the big shows. But obviously, Dexter Jackson and Phil Heath are on the shorter side. But I mean, this new crop of guys is just unbelievable because usually you don't have good symmetry on a tall guy. Usually the legs are down in size, but we've been seeing some very impressive taller guys competing on the circuit lately, and I don't even know what to make of it.
Yeah, it's make of it that Dexter's listening and say, "I'll kill them all." Like somebody, right? I mean, they're all great and right?
Yeah.
No, I mean it's you're right. I mean, they got height and. Usually tall guys are funny looking, right? Mm-hmm. They're lanky looking.
Yeah. Let's talk about.
Do you think Jeff could? Do you think Jeff could have technically placed higher?
Yeah, I think the second through fourth could have been swapped around. We weren't there, so
yeah.
Obviously, Max has got some more gifts than these other guys. Lockett's got the conditioning over all these guys, and Beckham's kind of got a balance between the two. So I'm sure it was not easy to score those guys, even though, well, I'm looking at the scorecards right now, and Max, the first round had perfect score, perfect seconds, but not so on the round 2, and that's why I think. And then they had the posing round they score, which it looks like they're just giving them the same score they're getting for the rest. I don't think they're really scoring it anymore. To be honest with you, they're just kind of making it another physique evaluation round, which is what it always was back in the day. But I can't imagine that. I don't know. Think about who won. Curry won. Did he have the best posing routine? Probably not. But that's all right. We'll take that. So Max and Lockett were very close. Beckham was pretty much a solid third, except it seemed like in the round 1 he actually got a couple, maybe third place. He's a solid fourth. Excuse me. He got a couple of third place votes. So. I'm sure it was difficult, to try to differentiate between which guys were the best, because those guys were really close to each other, I think. But I think the judges got it right. The surprise of the show probably was Guy Cisternino, because I don't think anyone knew that he was doing the Open. I mean, we had mentioned it, but no one really knew why he showed up to do this Open class. Maybe you can shed some light since you helped him.
I think that he had to be there, right?
I don't know.
Yeah, no, he had to be there. And, no, he had asked me, so what do you think of the Arnold something? And I'm like, what Arnold something? I think at the Arnold, Ohio, he asked me. And he had a respiratory condition or something, going into, speaking of respiratory conditions, he had some type of mild bronchitis running into the Arnold, Ohio. And he said, what about, Tony asked me to do the Arnold. And I said, I didn't know there's a show, 212. He said, there's not a 212. There's an Open. And I said, well, let me think about it. And then he said, I have to be there. And I said, you know what? Why not? What is the point? Right? You got to, if you want to see where you're at, with.
He looked big. Open, what do you weigh?
I don't know, because he stopped weighing because he's obsessed about it a little bit too much. And he didn't weigh he never gave me his weight running into the Arnold, Ohio. He stopped weighing completely. And, he hasn't weighed since maybe 3 weeks out from the Arnold, Ohio.
Yeah. He looked good. He looked very good. I mean, obviously the guys are a lot bigger than him, so, that's why he couldn't beat them. But he certainly was in terrific condition, and he looked good. His legs were freaky looking, his upper body, crazy, most muscular shots. I got to just say one thing. I know he listens to the show. Guy, I hate that beard. You got to get rid of that beard when you compete. I don't care if you want to walk around off season like that. You got to get rid of the beard when you compete. It just does not. It's not aesthetic. He looks it makes him look like weird. I don't know. On stage, it doesn't. It ruins his symmetry. Is what it does. It just, you don't even look at his physique. You just look at the beard. Mm-hmm. And I think that's why people don't have facial hair. I mean, you could have a nicely manicured, tight, like shaved beard, almost like a Brandon Curry. That's fine. That's not really distracting. But this bushy thing he's got going on, it's not doing it for me.
I didn't want to say, but one of the judges said it cost him like 3 places. I'm just
You'll give him a nervous breakdown.
Exactly.
But, like I said, I'm giving my advice, but it doesn't really matter what I think. But you don't compete with it anymore, guy. Just you grow it back in a week anyway. You have such crazy freaking thick hair growth on your face. Just shave it off for the competitions and then grow it back. The whole great thing about a beard is growing it to begin with anyway. So, every time you have to regrow it, it's another exciting little project you got going on. And Guy, you're not getting any younger now. So, every time it grows in, it's going to come in more gray. So I know you don't care about that, but it's pretty funny. Anyway, Darren Onokawa from New Zealand finishes in the 6th position. He's like the great New Zealand hope over there. That's their guy. So I talked about him with Mo El Moussaoui last week when we did the New Zealand wrap up on the TV show. So congratulations to him, and that's our top 6 in figure. We kind of had a repeat, or not really, a close repeat of the Arnold USA. Candice Lewis again wins big, beating Miss Olympia Latoya Watts, who now finishes in 2nd at this show, with Sydney Gillen, who was 2nd at the Arnold, actually gets relegated to 3rd. Jen Strobo 4th, Swan De La Rosa 5th, and Camila Rodriguez in the 6th position. And, it's funny because we showcased this girl from India, Deepika Chowdhury, when she was an amateur. She was coming to New York and doing a lot of the New York shows.
Oh, yeah, I remember.
Really nice girl. I had her on a TV show. Super, super cool. And, she got a pro card eventually. They gave her a pro card, and she was 7th here. So that was a huge, huge pat on the back for her, that's for certain, because, first of all, there are no pros in India, at least women Indian pros. And she's pretty much the only one. And to be placing, top 7 in a very difficult Olympia lineup figure competition, that's huge for her. And she's a pretty girl, and take a look at the pictures on the RxMuscle website. You'll see what I'm talking about. I mean, that's tremendous. And like I said, the fact that we kind of had her in the studio and we interviewed her several times, I mean, just kind of made us emotionally invested. So that's she did a fantastic job there. In the fitness, Oksana Grishina repeats again. Whitney Jones 2nd, Bethany Wagner 3rd, Christina Duba 4th, Dorina Wilson 5th, and Missy Farrell in 6th. And in bikini, Angelica Teixeira again wins, beating Courtney King, Miss Olympia. Same as happened at the Arnold USA a couple weeks ago. Janet Leig 3rd, India Paulino 4th, and Jennifer Ronzitti in the 5th position, with Sheena Martin in 6th. So terrific competition. I mean, if and I'm going to get Tony Doherty on the show this week, but if I had had this conversation with Tony 10 years ago, I don't think he would have ever imagined that he would have the kind of lineup that he had at this show all the way in Melbourne, Australia. So this show has grown, with I guess we could say the joining of forces between Tony and Arnold Schwarzenegger and the Lormers. They have turned this into a truly unique experience. And I know the people in Australia, because I've been there many times, love bodybuilding. They love the fitness industry. They love the expo. And to give them an Arnold Classic of this caliber in their country is monumental. That's why back in the day, if you remember, Chris, Tony would fly 4 guys in, after the Arnold, or 5 top guys, just to get some name people there. He'd put them up, he'd feed them, just because he wanted to make that Australia Grand Prix something special. And people kind of just foo-fooed it. They kind of just didn't really take it that serious. Oh yeah, it's that show. Lee Priest wins it a lot, and Dexter wins it a lot. But it has turned into something amazing, and that's because of the energy and the passion that Tony Doherty has for this sport there. I mean, he is bodybuilding there. I mean, he's really the guy to go to, and I gotta take my hat off to him, because he did a tremendous job. And if you've been there, we've both been there. Tony MCs the shows. I don't know if he MC'd the show this year, but he usually MCs the show. He's doing everything. He's wearing 50 hats at the same time at these shows. Yeah. No, he's well. He loves it, right? I take my hat off to him, because I don't have that same passion that he has. Still, my energy has been deflected into different directions now. Because I have a family now, I have a son, and he's still on it 100%. I gotta hand it to him. I take my hat. Like I said, give him a round of applause, because he does a tremendous job. Chris, let's take a quick commercial break. When we come back, I want to talk about some more news in the bodybuilding world, and I want to talk about. We'll do a couple Q&As. Because a lot of people have been saying they got questions for Chris Aceto. So, guys, stay tuned. We'll be back in 2 minutes.
A legendary name in hardcore supplementation. Iron Mag Labs. 100% original, patent pending andro compounds. The most effective, hardcore, groundbreaking bodybuilding supplements in the world. Iron Mag Labs. Revolutionizing hardcore supplementation for more than a decade. Visit ironmaglabs.com. ironmaglabs.com.
Hi, I'm Dave Palumbo, and I just had a protein shake made with Quest Nutrition's new salted caramel protein powder. And I can tell you this, it's on a whole new level. It's a total reinvention of the protein shake. The taste is incredible, and its creamy texture and richness make it taste like a real caramel milkshake. It's incredibly low carb, less than 1 gram of sugar, and 22 grams of protein in every serving. No soy, and it's gluten-free. Just add water, ice, a scoop of protein, and shake it up. It's that easy. I actually look forward to drinking this shake. And Quest Nutrition has got a total of 7 different flavors. They come in convenient single-serving packets so you can mix and match. Check out loveyourproteinpowder.com for more information on Quest protein powders and some delicious shake inspirations. Welcome back to Heavy Muscle Radio. I'm Dave Palumbo talking with Chris Aceto on this March 20th afternoon, and we've been recapping the Arnold Classic Australia that just took place this past weekend, and we talked about the Shawn Ray, Dallas McCarver controversy. We talked about all the winners of the show. And Chris, it's very sad when you hear about bodybuilders dying. And I know it seems like every week or every other week we're always reporting someone died in the bodybuilding industry. Well, it happened again. I guess you could say famous for Switzerland bodybuilder. He's a pro bodybuilder, Sandro Hofer, or Hofer. I don't know how you pronounce his last name exactly. He died after falling from a brothel. And for those who don't know what the word brothel is, it's a whorehouse window, after his wife hinted he had been feeling suicidal. Now, it's a crazy story. The guy was 32 years old. I don't know if you've seen his physique at all. He's got a tremendous physique, really good structure. I didn't realize how good this guy was. I don't remember seeing him in any shows. I'll have to go back and look at his contest history. But his wife hinted that he was suicidal, but I don't think that's really what had happened. It seems like he was. This is at least, if you read the article, what it insinuates is that he was possibly delivering drugs to the brothel, like recreational drugs, because his wife did say he sold drugs, and something went wrong, because people don't go to whorehouses and jump out windows. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you go in there for a drug deal, and you wind up on the cement by your car underneath, and falling from the top floor, usually means someone pushed you out the window. Don't you think that?
Either that or he missed. You know what? He could have been texting like I did once and walked right into a window. I was texting, and fell to his death.
He won the Arnold Amateur in 2013. That's how he got his pro card. And it's interesting to know that in Switzerland, brothels have been legal and regulated since 1942. So it wasn't like an illegal house of repute. Like, I don't know if anyone's gone to Amsterdam. They have also legal prostitution there. So legal, or I should say legal. Yeah, I guess it's prostitution. So it's a really weird story. I mean, the guy was in the prime of his life. He's in his early 30s. I'm speechless. A lot of people were very upset because a lot of people knew this guy, and he seemed everyone. I haven't heard anyone say a bad word about this guy. So it's just crazy. What's going on with the bodybuilders dropping, Chris? It's and this guy wasn't health reasons. It was. I mean, this is could be a homicide. For all we know, they're investigating. They're trying to say it was a suicide, but or an accident. I don't believe it. I think it looks like a homicide. I'm ready to send CSI in there.
Call Crime Busters.
2 unnamed Romanian sex workers were temporarily held in investigative custody. They've now been released. Mrs. Hofer, who didn't want to give her first name, said that her husband may have been delivering drugs to the brothel rather than visiting as a client. Well, when people say that, that's usually, if it's your wife, that's usually probably the truth. She said he may have been. She said he may have been abusing some unspecified substances himself. Swiss media also noted that Hofer had been previously linked to illegal substances, and Mrs. Hofer said her husband had made a remark recently that made her suspect that he had been feeling suicidal. She said he wanted to jump from a window 2 weeks ago. Now, I don't know if that's true or not. Who knows? But crazy. Look, guys, you don't know if you're going to be here tomorrow, so live your life to the fullest. That's really the message that you got to take home here, because it's a crazy world we're in. You never know what's going to happen, and that's why I guess you got to do what you really love doing. That's why I can't really doubt or criticize Flex Wheeler too much, because you know what? Who knows? He could be dead tomorrow. Let him do the Arnold. Let him do the Olympia and one more time and enjoy himself. We got the Karina Nascimento Pro Show this coming weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm too lazy to drive over there. I know Karina has asked me to come and cover it. I think Johnny will probably go over there. Tim Gardner, it's another Tim Gardner production. Him and Tim and Karina basically got together, and they're holding a classic physique pro show, women's physique, 40-plus men's bodybuilding, 40-plus men's physique, 40-plus men's figure, or women's figure, excuse me, and 40-plus bikini. So it seems like it's a very heavy masters pro event. And then she obviously will have the NPC show there as well. So that's going to be coming up this weekend. If anyone is in the, I guess it's in the Boca Raton area. Let me see. I'm going to check exactly where it is. Tim Gardner's got so many shows. Like I was saying it this last week. I don't know how the guy functions. I would be stressed out of my mind to no end, because these shows are never smooth. There's always something going on and drama and stuff like that. It's a lot of work. And, he's got multiple shows now. He has a show at Mel.
He can't do everything himself, right? So
I'm sure he has a staff now working with him, but that's still, it's a lot of responsibility. Just got married again. So he's got the Puerto Rico show. He's got Hawaii. Doesn't stop for Tim. I thought I had a busy life.
He have kids?
I don't know. He might have kids with a former marriage. I don't know. I don't really, not sure. But hey, you know what? Like I said, if you live in your dreams, then it's not really work, right?
Yeah.
You and I might see that as work because we don't really want to promote shows, but it's not work
if you enjoy it.
Like it, right? Exactly. Like people must say, Dave, why do you want to go clean snake tubs like every night before for an hour or two before you go to bed? Well, because I enjoy keeping the snakes, But for a person who doesn't like snakes, they're going to be like, this guy's out of his mind. He's wasting 2 hours out of his day,
Yeah.
So if you like what you do, it's not work. And that's the message that I tell everyone. If you get a job doing what you love, it's not work. You'll wish that you had double the time to spend on it, and that's the way to go. All right, let me see here what I got. Chris Aceto. I think I have a couple questions to ask you. I just want to make sure I covered all our topics. Probably forgot something, but all right. This guy wants to know about real estate. Okay. Long-time listener, follower since 2009. I am a young professional who recently got married and live on Long Island. I occasionally hear you bring up real estate with Chris and how you used to own rent apartments every now and then. And I take it that Chris has a world of experience, as I caught you mentioning that he manages over 200 apartments. I was wondering if there is any advice Chris or you could give a young professional or anyone in general on how to get into real estate investing or just investing and diversifying so that someone could live comfortably, not super rich, while providing for a family. My wife and I are currently looking at our first house on Long Island and also looking to begin investing in some capacity. Do you or Chris have any beginner advice for the younger generation?
You go and you buy a 2-unit or a 3-unit or a 4-unit, which you can get 30-year financing for so you can get your mortgage payment locked in for 30 years.
Okay.
And you live in it, and you collect the rent from if it's a 2-unit, the other one, or if it's a 3-unit, the other 2, or 4-unit, the other 3. And if it's a 4-unit, you collect it from the other 3, and then you should have, if you look and if you're smart and you can do things yourself, you should be able to take the rent money and live for free. So you should be able to pay your taxes, your mortgage, your insurance, your utilities from the other rents. And then if you can fix those units up, you can, or you don't even need to fix those units up. You can fix the unit up at some point 5 years down the road. You can fix up the unit that you live in, and then that would be extremely appealing to the next person, and you can sell it if things, if the market doesn't tank. If it just goes up normally, you can sell it to the next young couple who will pay a premium because they want to live in this fantastic apartment, which I would just con them and tell them it's kind of like condo-like feel to it. And then they can, in turn, collect the other 3 rents. And then You can, move into a single-family home if you want, or you can raise the rent on the other 3 at some point if you fix them and it's in a good location, and you can take the cash flow and go to the bank and say, I have cash flow. I have money coming in from doing nothing, renting these apartments,
right.
And the bank will give you a loan to go buy another 2, 3, or 4 unit based on that cash flow. So
interesting. So you're leveraging someone else's money, basically.
Yes, not yours. So you have some skin in the game, but not really, because you can get into that 2, 3, or 4 unit with 5% of the sale price down, which is nothing.
Right. I think for most people, it's very nerve-wracking to do that, Chris. But obviously, that's something that you were attracted to. That's something that you were passionate about doing, and it doesn't seem to faze you that much, knowing that you probably owe, your mortgage payments every month are probably would scare most people to death.
Yeah, they would, for sure.
I knew it. Because if you have multiple apartments, you have a mortgage to pay every month on everything. I mean, granted, you're collecting rents, but if the money doesn't come in,
you have to sit back and realize, even though it's your responsibility, that it's not your money.
Right.
I'm putting a new roof somewhere right now, and at first I'm thinking like, oh my God, So I realized, I'm putting a new roof on, and I'm thinking, well, wait a minute, I'm not paying for it. I mean, yes, I'm paying for it, but I'm paying it from the rents, where I put a small amount aside every month for things like that.
So you need to be very organized, is what you're telling me, if you're going to do something like this.
You got to be organized, but think of this. Here's the flip side in doing a small real estate little venture on your own. A 4-unit and a 3-unit. You can get money coming in. What's called positive cash flow with no employees. That's the key.
Right.
You know what I mean? And you don't have employees, and you don't have product. You have a product, but it's not like a restaurant where it's like, think of the restaurant stress. You have to throw food out. What if it snows and people don't show up? What if the weather's bad? What if the weather's good and people don't show up? What if you get bad reviews?
True.
And people don't need to eat out. They need to live somewhere, always.
Right.
There's no, people don't actually need Nike sneakers.
They don't?
Well.
Don't tell Guy Cisternino that.
Yeah. But they got to lie down at night and put their head on a pillow somewhere. And that's the attraction to real estate is, people need apartments. And that's always, everyone who's ever started anywhere, they didn't start in anywhere but apartments. They didn't, Donald Trump's father built apartments, right? He didn't build office buildings for, Wells Fargo and Citibank. They started with apartments. And that's how every real estate person starts. They start with the Pillow Project, is where you have to lie down at night, meaning you have to have some place to live, and someone's going to own where you live, and that owner is making a profit off your pillow. Right.
But did you ever see yourself going bigger than you are now, like trying to buy like an apartment building in Manhattan or something like that? Is that something that you have in your future plans?
I got it out of my system.
You did.
I got it out of my system. Yeah. The problem with buying more is you always over leverage, and that's the death to anyone in real estate. Right. They over leverage, which means they went to the bank with that cash flow, and the bank gave them the loan, and the bank fully understands, like, God, if this guy misses his loan payment once, if anything goes wrong, just anything, that's how close his margins are. We're coming after those buildings.
Right.
So you got to be comfortable. You can't be greedy.
Who says we only give bodybuilding advice on this show? There you go. Chris Aceto's take on real estate. It's a great idea. If I was probably younger, I probably would have taken your advice and gone after it. Right now, I have no desire to manage apartment. Matter of fact, I'm so happy I sold knock on wood, I sold my house, my rental house in Long Island. Should be closing in the next month or two, just because I'm sick of dealing with tenants already, because they got 4,000 excuses and no one cares about anything. It's I've had good tenants, I've had terrible tenants. Most tenants are just in the between, which means that usually you get paid, but sometimes they're late and they have excuses and they do stupid things, and then then you have to worry about the maintenance of the house and stuff like that. So it's something that if you're going to do, understand that it's not something you can do and forget about. You can't just collect rent. You have to make sure you have upkeep on your property and all that stuff, and pay all the little fines and all the other crazy stuff that comes up. All right, Chris, you have any questions? I thought there were more, but that's it. There was only one for you this week.
Yeah, there's something. Yeah, Dave, I'm in desperate need of a quality multivitamin. The issue is that I've always had bad acne.
Okay.
Quality multi. I've used all the antibiotics, creams, etc. Nothing worked until I participated in a specific program that combined eliminating some foods, dairy, peanuts, peanut butter, with chemical peels and topical products. My face has been clear ever since, and I am thrilled. Part of the program was that I could not have iodine, biotin, or folic acid. I was told those promote acne. I'm a bodybuilding athlete that trains and does cardio every day, and now that I am in my prep, my food is structured and limited. I want to take a multivitamin, but they contain those things that I'm not supposed to have. What are your thoughts?
All right, first off, it's a crock of shit. The vitamins causing or the minerals causing any kind of acne. That's I do buy into the foods, and I'm going to tell you a food story in a second. So if you want to use a great multivitamin, multimineral, you pick up my V Mineralize. I'm telling you, that's the best on the market. It's not going to increase your acne. Don't worry about it. You did all the right things to get rid of your acne, and you're doing them right now. And I remember when I was a kid, Chris, when I hit like maybe 14 years old, all of a sudden I started getting acne on my face. I had this clearest skin of all time. And it wasn't like gross acne like some people get, but it was annoying, and it was embarrassing. As teenagers, you don't like to get pimples on your face and stuff like that. So, of course, my mom took me to the dermatologist, and they give you all the creams. I remember distinctly, the dermatologist said, you could eat whatever you want. Don't buy into this stuff. Food doesn't make you break out. So I'm like, great. So I was eating all chocolate and shit like that. And then eventually I realized that the creams didn't do anything. As a matter of fact, they made my acne worse because they would just clog the pores. And I started saying, I started noticing patterns. This is, I guess, when I really first started paying attention to how I was eating, because I wasn't a healthy eater. I just had a good metabolism, so I didn't really get fat from it. I always was lean. But I realized that certain foods irritated the acne. Matter of fact, when I would be in class a lot of times, and I don't know if you remember in school, they used to sell M&Ms to raise money for different crazy things. I don't know, at least they did that in New York. And so if I bought some peanut M&Ms or M&Ms and I would eat them during the day, by the end of the day, I was broken out everywhere. And I'm like, you know what? So I realized that chocolate, not only chocolate, but it's the milk chocolate. It's the dairy in the chocolate. It's not the chocolate itself. It's the dairy that made me break out really bad. So I eliminated, not enough probably, but I cut back a lot of the dairy, and I didn't eat any milk chocolate stuff because I think it was the sugar. The sugar combined with the dairy is even worse because the dairy irritates the sebaceous glands, and then the sugar feeds the bacteria in there. So when you eliminate that, you notice that your skin clears up a lot. So I was very aware of the fact that certain foods, acidic foods, also would make my acne worse, and I try to really, address that. Also, what I found out later in life that they don't tell you is that one of the things that makes acne really bad, okay, is DHT levels, dihydrotestosterone. And if you can block those a little and blunt the production of DHT, because some people convert a lot of testosterone to DHT, and if you can blunt some of that, you don't break out as much. And so I have a product out called Testolize, and I'm not looking to promote my own products, but it blunts DHT production. It has a very strong saw palmetto extract in there, and a lot of people have told me that when they take Testolize, and I've been actually now referring people to do it, it gets rid of their acne, like women, men, and it really curtails it. So I think if you just eliminate, like I said, dairy-ish foods, sugar foods, those are the number 2 and 1 and 2 culprits. And then you also, block DHT production a little bit. If you have acne issues, it will definitely address it. If you take the Testolize 3 pills twice a day, I'm telling you, you're gonna see a great improvement. So, and this is, believe me, this is a problem a lot of people have in bodybuilding. It's funny because you see some people. I don't think I have a sore pimple on Jay Cutler's face, but I struggled with a lot of acne when I was, taking steroids and competing and eating a ton of food because, steroids increase DHT production, and I didn't really understand that. And one of the ways I figured it out was I started taking aromatase inhibitor for the first time, because they didn't have aromatase inhibitors in the 90s until toward the end. And I started taking Arimidex when it first came out, and I noticed my acne got really bad. And I'm like, what the hell's going on? I'm blocking estrogen. My acne's getting worse. Well, if you inhibit the conversion of testosterone into estrogen, you convert more testosterone to DHT. And I didn't realize that. So what I noticed was that when I took Arimidex, I broke out worse. And if I took something that blocked DHT with the Arimidex, then I didn't break out. So these are things that you have to be aware of, because, like I said, acne can be very embarrassing, and it definitely will hurt you on stage if you have, pimples all over your chest or back, and you're trying to pose. Judges don't like that.
No, that's all I got.
All right, good. 1-1. I like it. What do you got planned for this lovely? Actually, isn't it? We're almost at the first day of spring, technically. Although
sledding. I'm going sledding.
You're going sledding on the first day of spring.
Well, listen. No, I was going to take my kids sledding, which I don't want to do, actually, because my feet get cold always. Mm-hmm. Even though I'm 50, and this is the first year I broke down and bought a $250 pair of LL Bean boots.
Wow!
And they're so incredible, Dave. I go out of the house some days and just with no socks on in those boots.
That's crazy. What's even better is that we don't have snow here in Florida. It's 80 degrees every day. But yeah, go ahead.
You can just go crocodile hunting down there.
Exactly.
I was living next door. So, but we decided to go to one of these inner tube parks. You know what I mean? Where you walk up the hill and you get on a rental inner tube and you go down the hill.
Oh, that sounds easier.
Which our first experience, real quick, was about 8 years ago. One of my tenants invited me to go inner tubing. Dave, we got inner tubing at this rural farm, and everything was makeshift about it. It was like farmers, and they needed extra income in the wintertime. It's shut down now, and they needed extra income in the wintertime. So they built this giant, makeshift mountain. I mean, they had a hill on the farm,
right?
And then they had they'd pack it with snow, and they'd have like a homemade. You get on like this giant inner tube that could hold like 15 people,
right?
And they'd have like
that's awesome.
Hook that inner tube up to like a plow. Not a snow plow, but like something that they would plow the fields with, and they'd pull you up the mountain. So we get in, and I'm looking around, and they got like makeshift lights, and it's at night, and I'm thinking, we're on like a homemade job here. Like the lady collecting the money. It was like, there was no you take Visa, MasterCard, no, cash only. Right. And there was no booth.
Was there a release that you had to sign or something like that?
Yeah, there was like a release, but it was like typed up on like a typewriter. So we get to the top of the hill, and they let us go. And dude, it was like frightening. I was thinking on the way down, oh my God, are we going to survive? We were screaming, not so much, like you scream on a roller coaster. Yeah. You're afraid, but that, this has been inspected by the state, the city, the federal government, everyone else. Yeah. When you're flying down that hill, I'm realizing, oh my goodness, I got my kids on this, my wife, and my, at the behest of my tenant. And I think we're going to die on this thing. I mean, that's how fast we were going. And we're going out of control, and we went off the track. And
oh, really? That is kind of scary.
Once we realized we're all in one piece at the bottom.
Yeah.
They said, "You want to go again?" No, we're fine.
Even your kids didn't even want to go again?
No, they were frightened out of their minds.
I'm afraid that once my son gets to that stage, although there's no snow here, so I don't have to worry about that, he's going to want to do dangerous things, and I have problems. I have bad shoulders, my knee, everything's falling apart. I'm going to be like, I'm not going. I can't do that. My wife's going to have to do it because I'm not doing any. I don't do well with risky behavior, especially at my age, because
your knee would probably fall apart.
Yeah, my knee already fell apart, and I haven't done anything with it yet. It's already not feeling good. I actually just got more stem cells. A lot of people ask me. I went to a doctor here in Florida, very, very reasonably priced, $500 a shoulder, and they saved a little extra. They put it in my knee too. So I got my shoulders injected, both the shoulders, and I got my knee done. So we'll see how. The first night was so painful because it incites an inflammatory reaction, and it's kind of calmed down since then. So now I got to wait 6 weeks and see 6 weeks. See if I get any relief. I'm fishing in the dark because I really just don't want to get the shoulder replacement, even though I know I probably need it. But I'm like, you know what? I'm going to exhaust every alternative first, and so I did the stem cells, and it's interesting. The name of the stem cells they get, it's called what is it called? Amniofix, like almost like from the amniotic cord, stem cell cord. They get the stem cells from the amniotic blood cord, and then they just isolate them so there's no diseases or anything like that. And then they inject those stem cells into you. And supposedly when they inject the stem cells, it incites this inflammatory reaction, which then attracts all the growth factors. And those growth factors then nurture the stem cells, and they all kind of feed off each other. It's a whole little anabolic cascade going on wherever they put them. I think stem cells will be the future of healing. I don't think we're going to be doing joint replacements in the future. I don't think we've perfected it yet and figured out exactly what type of stem cells to put in there and how to make them grow maximally. But I think that within the next 10 to 15 years, we're gonna solve that problem, and probably, like I said, in 40 years from now, it'll. You have a little pain in your shoulder, you go and you get a shot, and you're better in 6 weeks, and that'll be the end of it. So it's exciting times we're in. You always think that we kind of hit a wall to progress, but I don't believe that. I think we're in almost a renaissance of science right now.
No, we're getting it's like the computer chip gets exponentially faster. So does progress. I mean, I always do this. One of my favorite things, I've said it before on the show, is look at the aerial views of, let's see, my father's 83. So 83 years ago, look at the aerial views. It's not a long time. It's when he was born.
Yeah. It's crazy.
He's still alive. Aerial views of Miami Beach. You'd be like, what? From a real estate perspective, you'd say, like, right? Talk about people want to invest.
Well,
Holy
Chris,
smoke.
I have to get some kind of. We're trying to get some granite for the windowsills in the new studio we're building, and I went to this granite store, and the guy I want to give the guy my address, and he's like, he pulls his phone out, and he's like, "Is this your house?" He had a picture of my house. He had a picture of my house from Google Maps.
Oh yeah, of course.
Crazy. He's like, "This yeah." I said, "Yeah, this is my house." He's like, "All right, I'll be there Monday." Not only do they have your address there, they got what your house looks like. They can almost look in your bathroom window with these satellite photos that they got out there now on Google Maps. So it's exciting times we're in. I like it. I love technology. So for me, it's super exciting. I wanted to bring up one more thing. I should have brought it up earlier, but a couple of people were upset with Ultimate Nutrition. Ultimate Nutrition at the Arnold Classic, and I believe at the Arnold Australia also, was charging. I believe it was $50, where you had to buy $50 worth of product to take a picture with Phil Heath and Dexter Jackson. Mm-hmm. So if you wanted to cut the line, take a picture with them. If you bought $50 in product, you could do that. People felt that wasn't cool. What is your feeling about that?
I think that. It's not that cool because fans have the expectation, right or wrong, that they have access to everybody by attending an expo. It's odd because, Phil Heath might be the best bodybuilder on earth, and Dexter Jackson may be arguably, by a lot of metrics, the most successful bodybuilder ever due to his number of wins and who he's beaten and so forth. But I ate out last night at the best restaurant in town, and it was expensive. And I wouldn't mind eating at the fourth best restaurant in town if it was free.
You're exactly right.
You know what I mean? Or if it was 25%. So nobody is going to pay. I saw that line. There was a line of 3.
Yeah.
Nobody was there. I think it was.
People get turned off by it. Jay Cutler used to give away his pictures for free. I don't think Jay ever charged for pictures. He used to give them away for free. He'll autograph a picture.
People were charging, so it's the opposite.
Yeah.
But
that's
it it would be a, if your goal is to get eyeballs by your booth, it seems like it's an odd tactic to charge, because people just go right by the booth.
Yeah, I think so too, especially when you have Mr. Olympia there. It's a weird thing, and I don't blame Dexter and Phil, because they don't have any control over that. That's Ultimate Nutrition. So I'm sure Phil would give away his pictures for free. I don't think that he's money hungry like that. But when the company's paying you the big money, you got to do what the company wants to do. So I guess the company wants to try to get people to buy product, and they're the bait that they're dangling. And I don't know if it worked for them or it didn't work for them. I guess we'll have to see if they do it next year. If they don't do it next year, it probably didn't work. So anyway, that's all she wrote this week. Once again, I'm enjoying this March now. It's kind of, after the Arnolds now, it's kind of going to die down a little bit until FIBO in the first week in April. Johnny Styles and I will be there for a day. Saturday, we'll be there covering the booth for Yamamoto, who will be sponsoring all coverage of the FIBO Germany show. I didn't think I was going to make it there this year, but Yamamoto stepped up to the plate, so I'm really excited about that, to cover that show and to see all our fans and all the people that we know from Europe. Of course, my good friend Roman Fritz. I know he listens to the show. We'll get to hopefully we'll get to at least go out to eat, Roman, and spend some time together. We didn't really get to spend too much time at the Arnold USA, but I will see him for certain in FIBO. And at the end of April, I'm actually going to the Emerald Cup, thanks to Brad and Elaine Craig. I believe it's the 35th year anniversary, so that's going to be a big one too.
That is an insane idea that show was still going.
Yeah.
I mean, it was that show was a big show before big shows were big. In other words, you can go to shows now, right? Long Island, Florida, and there's 50 million entries.
Yeah.
That's because they have 50 million categories. But when it was just bodybuilding, that show, right? It was just one step short of a nationals in terms of attendance.
People they'd get 5,000 people in there back in the day, but they would people would actually pay to have booths. Like Flex Wheeler would have.
Tell people how many people they would get 5,000 for that show.
Yeah,
paying in attendance.
Yeah, it was crazy, and they had a huge expo. It was. The first time I went there was in '96. That's how long I've been going there and guest posing. And they always had me back every couple of years for seminars and whatever. Depending on what stage of my life I was at, they were always bringing me back. And I consider Brad and Elaine Craig, very good friends, the promoters. So I'm looking forward to that. And so, we got a couple things coming up. The New York Pros, the third week in May. I don't know if we're going to make it out there. We're looking for a sponsor for that. I will have coverage of the show, but I don't know if I'll be there personally. I know you'll be there, so we'll certainly have some coverage over there. But all right, let's call it a day. Until next week, remember, with Heavy Muscle Radio,
the truth hurts.